Imagine you want to create a picture, but instead of drawing it yourself, you simply describe what you want in words. A text to image model is like a digital artist powered by artificial intelligence that listens to your description and turns it into a picture, right? So it listens to your description and turns it into a picture. Now, this video, I'll be talking about two different aspects of such models. One, if you are a functional person, right? So if you just want something where you can enter text and you can convert it into a picture, then yes, this video will explain in detail what's going on over here, every box and every details of this UI I will talk about. But if you are a programmer and a developer, and what you want to do is interact with this server programmatically, even then this video will be very helpful for you, because after I'm done explaining what this UI is, I'll go into detail and I will explain how you can interact with code with this ComfyUI, right? So we'll talk about a lot. So there's a lot to cover in this video. Let's get started right away. So how does this work? Like, you are just typing a description over here. For example, in this particular example over here, we have typed a gorgeous, attractive woman in her 20s holding a sign that says AI and looking straight at you with a pretty smile, right? So what happens is that AI interprets this text by breaking it down into smaller concepts, right? So for example, it took the blonde over here, right? It took 20s over here, and it's kind of getting an idea of what you're thinking about. And then it is taking these smaller concepts, a sign, AI, and looking straight at you and with a pretty smile and all that. So it is breaking it down, combining these ideas into a whole picture, and then it is generating a brand new image that matches your description. And how does the AI know what to draw? So these text to image models are trained on a vast amount of data, and this is where the whole ethicality of these models come into picture. Because if you put in Mickey Mouse over here, right, it'll draw a Mickey Mouse. How does it know what a Mickey Mouse is without taking the image of it and actually training your model with it, right? So there's a lot of ethicality, like how did you scrape that data? How did you get that information? But this is an unspoken thing in the AI world. You just take the data and you just train the models with that data, and then it is what it is. But anyway, for a consumer, what it means is that these models have been trained with a vast amount of data. And all this data is semantically related to these keywords that you have, right? So when these text to image models, they are trained on these vast amount of data, like millions and millions of images with matching descriptions for every particular word that you can think of, right? And then over the time, these models learn the meaning behind each word, and they understand the relationship between word and visual elements, right? So a model knows what a smile is, model knows what eyes are, model knows what blonde means, right? When you're using the word her, model knows what you're talking about, right? So when you said attractive blonde in her 20s, right? It knew that you were talking about a female person over here. So all these things a model is aware of. It knows what patterns are, what colors are, what shapes are, and how do you combine those shapes together to create an image that you have asked for. And the magic behind all these models is a latent space, right? So how this works is that these models, they work by encoding both the text that you have provided and the image that it has learned over the period of time from something called latent space. And this latent space is where the AI maps the words to the visual features. And after this mapping, the model uses a technique, and that's a slightly complex thing over here, so I'll park it, but it uses a technique, right? And we'll go into diffusion models later, but it uses a technique to generate an image from random noise by gradually refining it until the final image appears, right? So it takes a image, a latent a latent image, and it slowly and slowly refines it in multiple steps until you actually get the final image. And this is why when I'll click on this Q prompt again, you will see that it is going to generate an image over here by refining it over the period of time. And you know what? Let me do something over here to show you. So I'll change it to 40s, and then I'll remove all this sign and all that. And looking straight at you, and let's just keep everything else, right? And then let's cue this prompt, and I want to show you something very special. So you see how this is moving over here, and then now you see a woman being generated, right? And let's generate one more image, and you will see that that thing was moving, and the woman's face is generated. It is following the prompt very closely. There are two prompts over here though. So let's see if you did not want to see a particular feature in this woman, right? So let's say this particular woman has some wrinkles on her face, and let's say in your image that you wanted to generate, you did not want to see wrinkles. So there's a concept of positive prompt and a negative prompt, right? And we'll talk about all this in a second, but I just want to show you at a very high level, there is a positive prompt, what you want to see, and a negative prompt, what you don't want to see, right? So if you put in the negative prompt wrinkles, and if you try to submit it now, you will see that this same female or a version of a female in her 40s will not have a wrinkle anymore, right? So this is pretty cool, because not only does the model actually know what to do, it also knows what you don't want to see, right? So if you remove these wrinkles from here and cue the prompt again, it knows, oh, somebody in her 40s must have some wrinkles, right? So it is trying to generate a model, a person with some wrinkles on her face. But if you specify it specifically, it will remove it, right? So it will remove it. So now if you open it, you see it makes a good attempt of removing it. You know what? If we keep on increasing the age of the person, wrinkles will be more prominent, right? So you would expect a 50-year-old person to have wrinkles, and then there they are. But if you force the model to remove the wrinkles, it will still try to generate a 50-year-old person, yet trying to remove the wrinkles from her face, right? So this is what it thinks that a 50-year-old without wrinkles will look like. Okay, enough about that. So what is this particular thing? So this is something called ComfyUI. And a ComfyUI is actually a software that has been built for functional people, right? So for somebody who doesn't want to do programming and coding, they just want to use something and then just plug in some content over here, plug in the model's name and stuff, and click on Q prompt, and you just have a model, a image generated for you, right? So ComfyUI is a user interface that is provided where non-programming or non-programmers, functional people can just go in, click a few buttons, and get started, right? So if you want to see how you can set up this particular ComfyUI, then I have done a full video on it, right? So there is a video on my, I'll drop the link in the description section of this video, but there is a video that I have done where I show you, I guide you step by step. So this starts at this 33-minute mark approximately, step by step on how you would install ComfyUI. And the guide is provided over there too in this video in the description section. And you can go to this github.com link over here, follow the guide, also follow the video tutorial guide, and it will show you how to install ComfyUI. And it is just a Docker command that you'll have to run. And if you have followed the guide correctly, you will have your ComfyUI up and running in no time. Okay, this video also links you to another video, which is called Ultimate Linux AI Server Setup for a Quad NVIDIA 3090 GPU rig, right? So over here, I show you how to set up the base server. And in this video, I show you how to set up ComfyUI. So a combination of these two videos will get you up and running with ComfyUI. Now, in today's video, we'll talk about when you have ComfyUI up and running and all set up, and you are navigating to it, right? So when you go to your ComfyUI URL and you have installed it and you're navigating to it, then what do you do next? Right? So before we go over there, let's break down all these boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, total 7 boxes that we have over here. What do these boxes mean? And how is this UI laid out? So of course, the UI has these drag and drop components over here. These boxes can be dragged and dropped at any place. These prompts or these other boxes can be dragged along over the whole UI. The way I'm dragging them is by left clicking the mouse button. And if I want to move the whole space, I middle click my mouse button over here and I move it to span. And if I want to move a particular group of elements, then I can just control click on an element and control click on these elements, and then I can move them by holding the shift over here and selecting them and moving them, right? So control and click selects them, shift and click and drag moves these boxes together. All right, another way of selecting more than one box at a time is by just doing Control A and it selects all the boxes that you have, then shift, and this will move this particular section, right? Okay, all right. Now that we have done all this, let's talk about what each and every node is. So let's reset this space to the default space by clicking on this reset view over here. Right, so it resets the view. If you click load default, it will load all the elements the way they were by default when you first got this particular UI with you, right? So let's say by accident, if you clicked on something and you have deleted it and now you're panicking, how do I get back to what it was? And you go and you refresh your browser and you don't get that node back, do not panic. You are still okay. You can click on this load default button, okay, and it loads the initial default layout that you have, okay? And now let's talk about each and every box that we are taking a look at. So very first box over here is the load checkpoint box. And this box loads the pre-trained AI models for generating images or processing data, right? And we'll talk in more detail about all these boxes, but let's just give a high-level overview of what these are. The second box and this third box, they are called the clip text encode prompt boxes, right? And these are the boxes that encodes the text input. So they take a prompt and they encode these text input prompts into a form that can be used by the model to generate the image. And so this is the positive and this is the negative prompt. Now, this third box, this particular one, this is the most important box over here. This takes the encoded prompt and the samples and the latent space to generate an image eventually, right? So if you see what this box is doing, it is taking positive, negative prompts. It is taking the model over here. So I don't know if you can see that. There's a model that is connected over here too. It's behind the scenes. Let's pull it down so you can see it. So the model is connected over here too. And it is also taking this latent space as an input, and it is then generating this particular VAE decode, right? So, and then this VAE decode is the box that decodes the sample latent image back into a visible image, right? So imagine this box is just spitting some numbers in a way out, and this decode is actually converting those numbers into your image, right? So this is decoding it. And the save image box, it's very simple. It performs a save operation. And then this empty latent image box, this initializes a blank latent image, right? So it just says that, hey, these are the dimensions, these are the number of images and all that. And let's talk actually in detail about each one of these boxes, and then it will make sense. So this very first box, right, the load checkpoint box, this box loads an AI model. So an AI model is like a brain of the whole operation over here. And this AI model, or after loading this particular AI model, the whole system knows where the training data resides, right? So these AI models are just a link to an actual physical model that is residing on your system somewhere. So now you are just providing in a way a link to that particular model, and now you are letting your whole ComfyUI configuration know where to pick that brain from. Where is that pre-trained model, right? So you specify that over here. It also includes tools that help interpret the text and turn hidden data back into images, right? So all these hidden data, this is where it turns back into image. Now, it has a few components that it attaches to, right? So all these inputs and outputs over here. So the model, as you already know, that this is the pre-trained model that is being used, and in this case it is the real V6 VL50 lightning model, and I'll talk about how you obtain these models too, and I've talked about that, how you obtain the model in this particular video also. But this is a place where you specify your model. And now the clip, the text encoding model used to interpret and convert textual prompts into a form the image generator can understand, right? So this is the form in which the image generator can understand this particular text is what this particular clip does. And then VAE is your variational auto encoder, right? So variational auto encoder is something that helps compress and decompress the image data. And how it works is, so this is a little slightly complex operation. So it is used over here to decode the latent space back into a visible image. So when this case sampler is actually converting the information, numerical information, this VAE or variational autoencoder is then helping to decode all that information and converting it back into image. Right. So this is what this particular initial load checkpoint box is. Now, these two second boxes over here, they are actually the same thing, except for one is connected to the positive side of the case sampler and the second is connected to the negative side of the case sampler, right? So in this case, the prompt is a textual description that you want the AI to visualize, right? So for example, in this case, we said beautiful scenery, nature, glass, bottle, landscape, and whatnot. So everything over here, this is the textual description that we want the AI to visualize. We also want the AI to visualize this second one as a text, watermark, and all that. So these are the two different kind of textual descriptions that we want the AI to visualize. And this box turns the text that you have typed into a format that AI can use to understand what you actually want. Right? So it's like explaining to AI, here is what I want in the image, and here is what I don't want in the image. Now, this is the most important box over here, the case sampler, right? This is the most important box. This box is where the actual magic happens, and it takes the description from the text and the model's knowledge and generates an image step by step. So you can control how closely you want the model to follow your instructions and how creative you want the model to be, right? And how much detail you want to include in the model too. So all those things are configured right here. So let's talk about each and every element over here. So the first one is the model, very obvious. That's the AI model, which is used to sample or generate the image, right? So this is the AI model that is connected over here. Positive. So this is a positive description or the conditions that you want the image to follow, right? So this is the positive prompt. Negative is the description that you do not want the image to have. So everything that you want. So for example, when we were putting wrinkles over here, this is exactly what we do not want in the image. Now there are these configuration elements over here. What are these? So seed. So this is a random number in a way, or this is the initial number that is used to create variation in images. So for each seed, the image is generated differently, right? So let's go back to our example. Pretty in her 30s, looking straight at you with a smile, right? So if let's say we have this particular seed over here and we click on Q prompt, right? And you see that this is the image it generated. But you must have also noticed that every time when I click on Q prompt, then this image is changing. So I clicked again, the image changed, clicked again, the image changed. So for the same prompt, how is it possible for the model to see different things? It is because of this seed attribute. So if you keep the same seed attribute every time, then your model will generate the exact same image, right? So this is where your control after generate thing comes in. So if you click over here and if you make it fixed, right? So it is fixed now. So the seed won't change. And if you click on Q prompt again, you will see that for this particular seed, it will always generate the same thing, right? So it is, let me copy this over here because it's not even generating anymore because it's the exact same seed. It doesn't feel the need to generate, right? So if I copy this and I'll keep it aside and I will change it to some other number. So now this is different. And if I, so remember this image though, right? We'll come back to this image by that seed. And if I click on Q prompt right now, so it will generate a different image because I have 11111. But if I go back and paste the old seed over here, right? So we're forcing the model to generate an image with this seed. Let's Q it again, and you will see that the same woman came back, right? So if you know what seed you used, then you can recreate the original scenario. All right, so we can change it to randomize, which means that after it generates, it will actually randomize this seed and you will have a new seed then, right? So you see it randomized, and when you click on Q prompt again, it will have a new image. So after it generates, it puts a new random number over there, and this is what it means. Now, steps. So steps are the number of steps the AI, takes to refine the image. More steps normally mean higher quality of image, right? So if we change these steps to, let's say 50 over here, you will see that this loader will move slowly in 50 steps and it will generate normally a higher quality image, right? So let's see that. So the loader is now moving slowly in 50 steps and it is generating a higher quality image in general. Okay, now there is another attribute over here, which is called CFG, or classifier free guidance, right? So what this means is it balances between the AI following your prompt strictly or allowing a creative freedom, right? So usually I've seen that 7 or 8 is where you have a nice balance of AI having some creativity to itself and trying to follow your prompt, right? So 8 is, it's a very, very good number over here to leave. And this is pretty decent to keep over here between 7 or 8 over here. Okay, now you have a sampler over here. So sampler is actually the algorithm that is used to generate the image. I use Euler. I leave it as default. There's no need to change other unless until you actually know what you're doing. But if you are a beginner right now, I'll leave these settings to the way they are, except for playing around with the number of steps over here. And then you have this denoise attribute, right? So this is a setting that helps to smooth the image by reducing the noise. But where is the noise coming from? So this is actually coming from how much of variation you want from your latent image over here, right? So you are starting from an empty latent image, right? So you're starting from a blank canvas actually. So by the end, you want this blank canvas to get converted to an actual image. So you do want this value to be 1. If you change this value to, let's say 0, you will see what your canvas was, right? Because now what happened is it is saying that, hey, I want exactly the same thing how we started, and we started from a blank canvas. So if you change this to 0.5, you will say, I started with a blank canvas. I want to be retain half of the blank canvas. So half of the noise should be gone and half of it should get converted to image. So let's see that. So it still makes an attempt to retain half of the latent image and kind of, like keep half of over here, whatever it is. So whenever you are starting with an empty latent image, it is kind of given that you will keep this as the value of 1 and not choose any other value, because you are actually getting rid of it. Now, if you were starting from an actual image, right? So if you had something to begin with, in which case it's a slightly advanced thing where you will not use this particular box, you'd use something else, and then you can choose a different denoise value. But for an empty latent image, a denoise value of 1 will generally always be selected, right? So changing it to 1, clicking on the Q prompt, and you will see that you will have a image over here. So actually a better way to do that would be I'll copy this particular thing. I will change it to fixed. I will change it to 0.5, and let's generate this image with the 0.5 denoise, and you will see that if it retains half of the canvas. Okay, let's actually paste this over here, cue the prompt with 0.1, or maybe it won't let me do that. Let's see. So the prompt with 0.1 is kind of this. Prompt with 0.5, let's see, denoising it at 0.5 with the same seed will result in this. And let's do 0.25 and see where it goes, and that results in maybe a slightly blurrier picture. Yeah, and let's see, 0.35 over here. Does it make a difference? I want to see part of her and part of the thing, and kinda, yeah. So if we go closer to 0.8 and 1, you will see a more clearer of her. And if you see 1 is exactly what you would want, where you do not want the blank canvas, but you want full of her over here. So it's going to remove the canvas and it will keep her, fully her. Okay, so these variations in denoise also affect the way the model sees the final image. So even though the seed was the exact same number, you're not seeing the same woman with the blurriness, but you are seeing a different woman actually over there, because all these attributes that we have over here control what the final person is, because we know that this is a person, but the model is just seeing that as a feature, right? So it doesn't know that it's the same person. It's our perception that makes us know that it's the same person. All right, so that's like a basic high-level view of what this particular UI is. And I'm gonna reset the view over here, and I'm gonna load default over here, and we get back the original thing that we were looking at. Okay, so there are a couple other things that I have talked about in my previous video. And I'll just reiterate them if you're watching it for the first time in this video. So I'll just reiterate them. I'm currently running this on a Linux machine, right? And I have a NVIDIA 3090 GPU, actually 4 of them on this particular AI server where this is running. You don't need that much of GPU power, but you do need some GPU power. All these AI models, they love GPU, and having an NVIDIA at least 30 series GPU helps a lot. 3090, very good. 4090, you are golden, right? So there are some models that take a lot of time to generate, and there are some other models that generate things pretty fast. Few more things, models usually struggle with fingers, hands, right? So those kind of features they really struggle with. Models also struggle with something like text if you're trying to put over there. I mean, some models are good with it, but most models struggle with it. There has been a newer model recently called Flux model. And these Flux models are really good. They are really, really good. How good? And how do you know they are good? There is a website, there's a leaderboard. And that leaderboard website is called imagesys.org. And over here, you can see the ranking of these models. So all these models, they are ranked over here, and you can see all these flux point 1 models. They are at the top, and they are at the top because of the reason they are the best models right now. And the dev and the Schnell models are available to us to use for free. The Pro is not, but you are free to use them. I've noticed that these are slightly bigger in size. They are not quantized, or the quantized version is something that I'm not using right now. I haven't downloaded that yet, but this particular model over here is pretty good. Schnell is fast model. It is pretty good. Schnell means fast in German, and Dev is actually, they are about the same size, but Dev is slightly higher quality but slower. Schnell is slightly faster faster but slightly lower quality, right? So it's a performance model over here. I'm using this model, RealVis XL model, but you'll ask, how do I download these? You can, of course, go to the Hugging Face to download this model, right? You can click on this Hugging Face icon and you can download the model over here from Files and Versions, and then you can download the model from here. But this is the safe tensors file that you need to download. But there's another place where you can download these models from, which is what I actually like, which is called CivitAI.com. I don't know how to pronounce it. Civitai.com, CivitAI.com. But over here, you can take any model from this leaderboard that you have seen, and you can just type in over here. And I have this RealVis XL version 5. I know there was version 4 mentioned over here, but there is a version 5 available. And this is the one that I've been showing to you guys in this particular load checkpoint over here. So where do you download and keep these models? All this I have discussed in detail in this particular video, right? So you will see in detail where to keep this model. And I've talked about a high-level tutorial also in this particular video too. Okay, so now that all that is out, from functional point of view, there is a couple more things to know. Let's say you have created a particular flow by yourself, right? So you are now an advanced user, you know what you're doing, you have deleted this checkpoint box, you have created maybe a new latent image box and all that. Let's talk about a couple more UI elements that you'll be interested in. So you can click on save, and this particular workflow will be saved in a JSON format over here, right? So a simple save saves the workflow in the JSON format. And I'm going to save it just so that I can show you what this JSON format actually looks like. So you'll see that this is a very huge file, right? It's a very huge file. It has each and every detail that you have over here, right? So everything is over here, very big file, big JSON file that we have. And this is okay. This is one of the JSON files that you can use to load, right? So you can load this file at any time, right? So let's try to reset the view and all that, load default, and then load that particular JSON file, right? So you see that the same file is loaded over here. If I delete this and type something else, and I delete this also, let's say, and I delete this also, and if I do a load of that JSON, if I clear the workflow and load the workflow, that is interesting. Reset view. Interesting. Okay, all right. So let me take that back. It does not work that way, but it is supposed to work that way. So I'm not sure what am I doing wrong over here. So let me just double check what happened over here. Let's click on clear again, remove all that. Let me just refresh the browser. So it is supposed to load So I click on the workflow.json and okay, all right. So it came back. So I want to replicate this. I don't know why it wasn't working. So let me delete all that and load workflow.json. So it doesn't load unless and until you refresh maybe. So let me refresh the screen and then let me load again. And then now it loads. Okay, all right. All right, so the way to load is you would want to refresh the screen. So you can delete all these nodes and stuff. And if you want to load it, it won't load over here for whatever reason. But if you refresh the page and then you load it, it will load then, right? So that workflow.json does have all the configurations over there, but you do have to reload the web page to load it. Don't ask me why, but this is how it is set up. Okay, so this is all for the functional people up until now. What I'll do is I'll make another video that will talk about the coding aspect of it. So how do you convert this workflow and programmatically interact with it? I will talk about that in the next video after this. So thank you everyone for watching this video. And if you are interested in seeing how to programmatically interact with ComfyUI, then stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.